Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2013 Honda Fit, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Kit. There's going to be a total of 5 main components needed to flat tow your Honda down the road behind your motorhome. And the first one is going to be your base plate. What that's going to do is provide us with a solid and reliable connection point. That way we can hook our tow bar up to it. Tow bar is going to be your second component. And what that's going to do is be the physical link that actually connects the front of your Fit to the back of your motorhome. The third main component is going to be safety cables. And these are pretty straightforward. You know, these are there in the event of an unlikely disconnect. These are going to keep everything paired together. The fourth main component is going to be your tow bar wiring. And what that's going to do is transfer lighting functions from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Honda, keeping you safe and legal. And last but not least, the fifth main component is going to be your braking system. And what that's going to do is hit the brakes in your Honda whenever you apply the brakes in your motorhome, helping bring you to a more predictable and complete stop. And this is a perfect example on how the wiring is going to work. So we have our left turn signal flashing on the motorhome, and that's transferring it back here to the left side of our Honda. So not only are we going to get the left turn, but the right turn as well. And we're also going to get our tail lights and our brake lights. So we know we're going to have all of our bases covered, and we'll be confident whenever we're going down the road. You know, people are going to know what's going on, and we're going to be safe and legal. With that said, I mean, there's a few different choices of what types of wiring that you can get to get your signals transferred back here. The diodes are by far my favorite, and that's because you know, you're not going to notice them at all once they're installed, and they're going to be super easy to use. So essentially, whenever you're ready to hook up or disconnect, all you're going to have to do is plug a cable in, and it's that easy. Another style of lighting you could use is what's called magnetic lighting. Kind of the downsides to that is the fact that you're going to have to set it up and take it apart every single time you want to flat tow. So you're going to have some lights that'll stick up on the roof of your Honda. You'll have to drape wires all the way up to the front and plug it into the back of your motorhome. To me, that's just kind of a hassle. You know, who really wants to mess around with that? When you're over the road, you already got a lot going on. Why bother with one more thing? And not to mention, you know, that's quite a bit of thick wire running up and down. When you're not using it, you're going to have to find a spot to keep it. And as we know, when you're over the road, your motorhome storage is key. And don't waste space using magnetic lighting. Diodes like this are definitely the way to go. So here at the front of the vehicle, like I said, super easy to operate. You're simply just going to unplug and plug it back in whenever you're ready to go, and that's all there is to it. You know, that's what's going to transfer your lighting functions. Now, as far as what kit you need, you've probably noticed that there's a handful of different types of kits. And so I figured it would be beneficial just to kind of talk about those different kits and the scenarios in which you would use each particular one. So our case, we're showing off the kit that has the completely straight wire. And you're going to use that kit if your tow bar has channels. All right, that way, you know, you can utilize those channels properly and run it through there. Another one that you could use for a tow bar with channels is this hybrid type kit, where it is somewhat coiled there towards the motorhome side, and the rest is straight, and that way you could run it through. This will work fine with tow bars that have channels. I've noticed this works best since it's a little bit longer. If you have a really long tow bar, or maybe a high-low adapter that really puts some distance in between your two vehicles, you know, this gives you a little more of that. And then we're gonna have a coiled type cable. All right, so that's what this will look like. And you're going to use this one if you have a tow bar that does not have channels. That way the coils will help keep it tight and up off the ground when you're going straight. And then when you make turns, you know, it'll stretch out and give you that extra length that you need. All three of those that I mentioned are a 7-way round connector for the motorhome side, 6-way round for the vehicle side. By far our most common kits, this seems like the way to go. With that said, you know, that's not all you're limited to. There's also a 7-way round connector for the motorhome side, coiled cable with a 4-way round at the vehicle side. But my thought is, if you're gonna go through the trouble of hooking everything up, you know, you might as well get the 6-way. That way you have, you know, some more options down the road if you want to use a charge line or anything like that. And we're also gonna have just a regular 4-way flat to 4-way flat connector. You know, 4-way will plug into the motorhome side, 4-way to the front of your vehicle. And my thought on this is kind of the same as the 7 to 4-way coiled cable. If you're gonna go through the trouble hooking it up, might as well get the 7 to 6. And then there's another kit available as well too. And that one is just gonna be the wiring portion and the diodes. It's not gonna come with the connector plug or a cable at all. And that kit's available because some premium type tow bars actually come included with those components already. Some already have the cable and the connector plug, so it doesn't make sense to buy them twice if the tow bar you bought, you know, already has them. So if that's your case, that's a kit you definitely want to check out. As far as getting this installed, it's really not too bad. Pretty straightforward, more or less just time consuming, you know, routing on the wires and everything else, but set aside a little bit of time for you to get this done. Really shouldn't have any issues. Speaking of which, let's go ahead, pull into the garage and hook it up together now. To begin our installation, we're gonna be here at the front of our fit. And the first thing that we need to do is take one end of our wire and get it connected to the plug. Now, clearly we have the fascia removed while we're doing this, because we're doing it at the same time that we did our base plate. You don't have to have the fascia off by any means, but I do suggest doing it this way all at the same time, because it does make life a little bit easier. With that said, you're going to take one end of your wire and run it through your bracket. In our case, I just used a no drill long bracket and secured this bracket to it. This one does come with the kit, this one doesn't. That said, you know, you can find a bunch of different brackets right here at etrailer. So take our rubber boot, slide that over first, just push that out of the way for now. And then we're going to separate our wires. So just carefully cut in between them. Let's get them split. And you know, we'll peel these back a few inches and then we can strip them back. So grab our wire strippers. We're going to strip back each end. Once you have them stripped back, you want to give them all a good twist. That way the wires are nice and tight. So once you have the wires stripped, we can then get our plug ready. So the way this is going to work is you're going to have these set screws, and you're going to take a small Phillips head screwdriver, and you're just going to back these out almost all the way. Try not to pull them completely out because they're kind of tough to get back in, they're being so small. But each terminal is going to be labeled, and we're going to be using 4 of them. This one here is TM for taillight, so our brown wire will go to it. This one is GD for ground, so the white wire will go there. Here we have the LT for left turn, so yellow wire will go to it. And right here we have RT for right turn, so the green wire will go there. So pretty straightforward. We're just going to take the appropriate color wire, put it into the correct terminal. I'm just going to push that in there and then tighten down that set screw. Do that same thing to get our remaining wires hooked up. So once you have all of your wires hooked up, what we can then do is take the rubber dust cover and put it over. Now I do suggest at the very end, when you got everything hooked up, you know, everything works, take your dust cover off and put some dielectric grease on these terminals and just seal everything up. That'll help keep it protected from corrosion and things like that. But I do that at the end because if you have any issues, you know, you're going to have to kind of work around all that grease and everything. So that said, we'll go ahead and mount up our connector to the bracket here. So I started to route our wiring, and I simply just went next to our base plate, and kind of just right up here behind our headlight. So that comes up into the engine compartment, and what we're going to do now is ground our white wire here. So I'm going to ground it to that factory ground right there, where that bolt is. So we're going to cut this wire to length. Alright, so I like to give a little bit of extra just in case if we need it. But we're going to very carefully cut just this white wire. Get that cut in half. And the side that we want to hook up is the side that goes to our 6-way connector there at the front of our vehicle. So that's this end. I'm going to strip back the insulation. Give it a good twist. You're going to take the ring terminal, slide that over the bare end of the wire, and crimp it down like so. And then that bolt, we're going to pull that out using a 10mm wrench. Make sure you get all the grounds put back in place here. From there, we'll go ahead and simply just tighten it back down. With the other end of this white wire, we're simply just going to peel this off of the rest of our harness. So we'll just completely remove this, and you want to hold on to this wire because we are going to use it here in a little while to complete our installation. So I continued to route our wiring, and pretty simple, I just routed it on up through here, and simply just dropped it down along the back of our firewall. It's a little tricky to see from up here, but we'll get underneath the car and take a better look at it. Here's where our wiring comes down. When you do this, you want to try your best to avoid any hot or moving parts. That's why it does come with some zip ties. You can zip tie that wiring up and out of the way. So I just continue to route that above this panel, through here, and this whole panel covers everything. I simply just push the wire right through it where it comes out here. Pulled that wire tight, zip tied it, and I just followed some of these lines. They kind of loop around. Wire kind of shoots on up through here, right along there. It continues along here, and then at this point, you can see I separated the green wire from our yellow and brown wire. The yellow and brown wire just drops right down, and what I did, I took that white wire that we saved and just connected it to the end, just twisted those ends together, because these 3 wires, this white, yellow, and brown, will run up to the driver's side. And then the other end of the white wire, I just continued on with our green wire there. So I used a clamp there just because there really wasn't anywhere good to zip tie it. Can't grab these here etrailer. Simply just ran it across behind our bumper, where it goes up and over our bumper beam and drops down right here. So we'll let these wires kind of hang for the time being. We're going to go up top and figure out a way to get these hooked up to our taillights. So now we need to gain access to the back of our taillight. So if you open up your hatch and look just on the inside of it, going to have this access panel here. All right, we can pop that out of the way. Just take a small screwdriver, pry it behind there, and pop it off. That will allow us to gain access to, it should be 3 8mm nuts. So we have one there, there, and there. And we're going to remove those, and that'll allow us to kind of pull our taillight out. So I'll grab our socket, get those removed. Once you have those nuts removed, we can grab our taillight, pull out on it, and that will allow us to disconnect everything. So you can either unplug the connector or just pull the whole bulb out. you're just going to rotate everything a quarter turn and get the bulbs removed. And once you have them out, we can set our taillight off to the side and simply repeat the same thing for the other one to get that out as well. This connector down here, I tested the wiring. That way we could figure out what wires perform what signals. And we're looking for the taillight signal as well as the brake light signal. And in this case, this green wire here, that's going to control our stop and turn. And this gray wire here, that's going to control our taillight signal. So with that said, we need to cut these in half. So you're just going to snip them one at a time. And then we're going to strip back all 4 ends of the insulation. So I like to run through these kind of one by one. Once you have the end stripped back, you're going to take one of the blue spade terminals, slide that over the bare end, and crimp it down. Now we can grab our diodes and we're going to stick them together. Peel off their backing paper. Push them like that. The ends that are labeled out, that have the single diode, or single terminal rather, you're going to connect to the ends closest to the plug. I'm sorry, closest to our light itself. Like so. And then you'll just match up the color for color on the other end of the diode. So gray to gray. And green to green. So with this done, now we can go ahead and get our wiring that we ran to the back here up inside of the taillight pocket. That way we can get those connected to our diodes. So what I went ahead and done was take a fish wire. So this is a piece of tubing. You could use a coat hanger or something like that. Drop it down behind our taillight. It'll come down below our vehicle. Then you can tape your wires to that. All right, and then you can pull up on this wire here to get everything to come into position. It's a little tight, so expect to have to kind of work it a little bit. All right, so once we get it through, kind of pull up our slack and cut the wires to the appropriate lengths. I like to give us a little bit of extra to work with. And this is what we're going to do. The white wire and the brown wire we're going to connect together. So we'll strip those ends back. We'll take these and twist them together real tight. We'll take the yellow terminal, pop that over the bare ends of the wire, and crimp it down. Yellow wire, pretty straightforward here. We're just going to crimp on a blue terminal. Now we can get these hooked up to our diodes. All right, so since the factory gray wire is our taillight signal, we're going to take the white and brown wire and plug it into that diode. And since the green wire controls our stop and turn, we're going to take the yellow wire and plug it into that diode. So I went ahead and reinstalled all of our bulbs into the back of the taillight, well, the opposite way. And now we're just going to line our light back up and re-secure it the opposite way that we removed it. Over here on the passenger side, I got everything hooked up essentially the exact same way as the other side. The factory wire colors are the same, the way you get the wires up in here are the same, and everything else. So the only difference is the new wires that we ran and what colors they go to. So the new green wire, that controls the stop and turn, so that's going to get connected to the factory green wire, where that goes into the diode. And the white wire, the new white wire, controls our taillight signal, so that's going to get connected to that factory gray wire on that diode there. So once you have this hooked up, you'll just reinstall everything in reverse order. Now that we have everything hooked up, it's a good idea to test our wiring to make sure that it's working properly. So I just went ahead and plugged into a test box, and I'll try out our taillights, our left turn signal, our right turn signal, and our brake lights. And that'll finish up our look at and installation of the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Kit on our 2013 Honda Fit.